Welcome back, everyone, to the Culture Climate Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Brence, and today I am pumped to bring you an inspiring conversation with our two guests, Benjamin Bratcher and Ratjen from Bratjen Construction Company. This leadership duo has been on a journey together for the past 3 years, not only building a growing business, but establishing a culture centered around core values that they like to call their 3 F's: faith, family, and friendship. You'll hear the awesome story about how they got started in the midst of the pandemic, how they've navigated the turning of the tides in the economy and changing workforce, and how they're adapting as a team along the way. Join us now as we dive deep into Ben and Jared's inspiring story and learn more about those 3 favorite F words that have helped them truly cultivate a thriving culture at Bratjen Construction Company. All right, here we go. Let's climb it. Welcome to Culture Climate, presented by STC. Company culture is complex, like trying to track down Sasquatch. But we're here to dive into the belly of the beast. Join us for firsthand stories from leaders, along with transformative ideas and insights impacting organizations and people. Ready to climb it? Let the journey begin. Well, hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is Ryan Brence and Daniel James, and we're here for the Culture Climate Podcast. And today we got 2 special guests, Benjamin Bratcher and Ratjen. And if you combine those 2 last names, you get Bratjen. And so, fellas, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, I want to just go ahead and cut to the chase because just hearing your stories and your background and how you guys connected, it really was on the basis of relationship. And as you guys have been in business now for about 3 years, how have you developed your core values with relationship being one of those strong core values that you have?
Yeah, I think for us, when we started, we didn't know what we didn't know. We had an idea, we had a thought, we had a direction we wanted to go, kind of knew, some clients that we wanted to be able to serve, some ways we wanted to try to achieve that. And it was kind of interesting. We were on the way to, a meeting, and right during the middle of COVID, Jared calls me. He's like, hey, before we go to this meeting, we got to sit down and, just really talk. And we really need to just, get our core values lined out and just really what we're about, who we're going to be. And so anyway, we tried to meet at a few places, and
this was when the mask mandate was still a deal.
Yeah. So there wasn't very much open. So we tried to go into a Starbucks, all places, and yeah, they're closed. And so it was actually a good thing because we actually found an opportunity to go somewhere else that ended up being a mile from where our office is now. And anyway, sat down, and Jared was like, hey, I think I've got it figured out. I think this is what our core values are. So,
well, we really started with faith. I mean, that was the foundation of everything that we wanted to do. And I think you guys have heard that from us. We started with that word, and it led us into the next word, which is family. And the way we really wanted to look at it was, Ben and I, over our, course of years that we did business together, we became kind of like family. We did some family trips. We hung out outside of work. So not only did we want to take our clients and treat them like family, but we wanted to create a family culture within Bratjen. And we wanted to, live that out by taking care of our people the way you would take care of family. And so, that became our second F. Well, the next word you brought up several times is the word relationship, which we all know is a huge part of this industry. I mean, without the relationships, it's all about who you know. And so we're landing on the word relationship. We weren't really in love with it because, as Ben says, and I want him to tell you guys this part because I don't know that we've been to an interview for a job or interviewed anybody that we haven't actually told this piece of the story to, but we came up with the third letter of F, the third word within our core values.
Yeah, and I think, part of it was, trying to have some consistency with our messaging and trying to make it, similar. So every word starts with an F. And then I think paired with that, there was kind of the perspective that relationships to a certain degree can be a dime a dozen. And some people just use a relationship to get what they want. And I think, in Jared and I's career, we've seen that time and time again. And so there's kind of that dynamic. And I kind of say it this way. It's like, this table, my water bottle sitting on, my water bottle has a relationship with this table. And I can lean on it. It can support me well. If this table fell over, we just find another place to put my water bottle. It doesn't mean there's anything special about this table. And paired with that, I'll remember these chairs because these chairs are nice. But I'm not going to remember this table probably when I go home tonight. Like, it's just not going to be something that I recall. Friendship's a little bit different. Friendship is this idea of, no, I'm not trying to use you to get what I want, but we're mutually invested trying to achieve, similar or common goals. And so that was really kind of that shift, and it really fit with kind of where my head was at the time of, trying to have consistency with, each word starting with an F. And it's been really interesting as that's kind of carried forward of, really being kind of our guiding principles of how much of an impact that makes. And the way I like to say it is, friendship is really that external lens that we try to operate with customers and with subcontractors about. And so really trying to go through it. It's not that you work for me or you have to do this, but really you've got a goal, you've got a vision in mind. We have a goal. Let's go marry those together where we can both be successful. And there are people that we deal with from time to time that are more relational based. Like, that's all they care about is getting what they want. Well, over time, hopefully we can take a relationship. Any friend that we have started with an acquaintance or a relationship. So hopefully over time that we can bring them closer, develop those strong relationships. Or, maybe it's people that, don't value the same things that we do, that maybe we're better served, helping other people. And so really friendship, that external lens. Family, I would say, is kind of our internal, how we try to deal with, people that we work with. And, obviously y'all can relate to this. We spend more time with people that we work with. In a lot of cases, we do our own families. And so that's really that mindset. And then faith is the guiding principle of what we do, why we do it, and what we're here for. So,
can you kind of summarize some of the things that you do that you had learned through your journey that you wanted to bring with you?
To answer that question, there's quite a few things. Back to that friendship word, what we do in our industry, you guys know, it's not easy. I mean, we're turning a piece of land into a building, okay? And through that process, sometimes it gets Western, we like to say. And, to that point, at the end of the day, that guy's still your friend, okay? We can have tough conversations, but at the end of the day, we're still friends. And so we have to approach each other with respect and treat each other like friends for that to work. And I think we've done a good job with that. But, as far as taking things that, we didn't like, I mean, obviously there's a laundry list of things that you don't like when you're an employee. It just is what it is. But Ben and I really tried to focus on more of, how do we want this to look? We can do this however we want to do it. And, back to that family word and our employees and our family at Bratjen is, benefits was a huge thing for us. Okay. So when Ben and I kind of started off, we have a great friend. He's my best friend, Jonathan Forrester. And Jonathan actually worked for me at Potter until one day Ben takes me up top of the ski slope in Vail, asked me for help. He goes, "Hey, I need a guy." And at that time, Potter had kind of maximized what they could do in a year. I mean, they've got X amount of crews. We can do this much work. Where does Jonathan fit in the big picture going forward? So made the comment to Ben, like, "Hey, what about Jonathan?" So Jonathan ends up going to work with Ben at Conlin, kept that relationship going. Well, as things progressed, 2020 rolled on. Bratjen had core values. We had incorporated. Jonathan came with us. Okay. Well, we've got this new company. Jonathan stepped out of his career to come with us, and he's got a baby due in like 2 or 3 weeks. So the first thing that we did was go get health insurance.
That's probably the first official act Bratjen made. So.
And we said, we got to take care of this guy. We got to take care of Jonathan and his family. And we didn't just want health insurance. We wanted the best. It's like, if we're going to do this, we got to figure out how to have low deductibles, how to have flexibility, how to give these guys, the best benefits that we can.
Yeah. Limited cost to the employees, all that. So.
Yeah. So, that led into some really cool things. Obviously, we cover the employee 100%. Okay. Health, vision, dental, life insurance. It's probably pretty common. But we also, because Jonathan had his baby right when we incorporated, we came up with this deal called the baby bonus. So every time a Bratjen employee has a baby, they get a baby bonus. So
very cool.
Yeah.
It probably doesn't pay off in the long run, but it is something, going through that time, a little something extra that we can do. And I think, the lotto, like with the employees, was really the reward and recognition. So some of that's part of that. We like to say, like, Jared and I didn't start, Bratjen to be able to go. I always call it like I don't know what his name is, but it's like the Grandpa Donald Duck. But he had like this safe room and it was like full of coins. He had a
This is the
diving board.
Ebenezer Scrooge
I don't know, maybe it was.
version of this deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was like this pile of gold. He'd go swimming in his gold swimming pool.
That was
and it's
that one.
like, that wasn't our vision. Our vision was really be able to create something, be able to reward the people that are contributing to it, really create those opportunities, not only from a compensation standpoint, but from benefits, from extracurricular activities, things like that, really to build, the right culture.
Well, and with that, I don't think anybody in here would raise their hand and say, I love to work 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days a year.
Yep.
We all like to have our family time. We like our vacation time.
Yes,
and
the only reason we go to work typically, I mean, hopefully we enjoy what we do.
Yeah.
But the reason we're going to work is go support our family or go be able to do, provide for ourselves and something that we want to do. But
I think one of the coolest things we've done with our culture is our vacation policy. And we both looked at it and said, we had X amount of time off at this job. You might have PTO, whatnot. Well, we came up with a new idea. It was that we were not going to have a vacation policy. If we can trust a guy to go manage a multi-million-dollar project, that's our baby. If he can do that, we can trust him on when he needs to be at work and when he doesn't.
Yeah, and sadly, the world we live in today, you're always connected. And some of that frustration Jared and I's experience was you might be on vacation, but you still got your laptop, you're still answering phone calls. And it's like, oh yeah, I took 3 days off, but I worked most of it. And so it was always kind of one of these kind of juxtapositions of, is it time off? Is it not? And so that was kind of what our deal is. Let's go create an environment where it's not focused on time off. It's not focused on clocking in and out of the clock, but it's focused on opportunity and being responsible and being able to manage those things effectively. So,
and the cool thing with it is because we were set on doing it. We didn't know what was going to come out of it. It's like, hey, is anybody going to take advantage of this? So far, they have not. I mean, so far, I would tell you that it makes them want to work harder for the team because we're a giant team. We don't leave one person on their own. I mean, we're all in this together. So, when a guy wants to take off work, he puts it on the company calendar. So we know we get him covered and see ya.
Yeah, we've been pretty strategic too from a culture standpoint, trying to build the right bandwidth. So when we go talk about, some of our core values, one of them's family, which we talked about. Well, kind of the catchphrase for that is, basically serve, support, and sacrifice while maintaining work-life balance. And the serve, support, sacrifice is for our quote-unquote families. Now, that could mean our personal families at times, and it could also mean our work families. And so being able to balance those things out for people to be able to achieve what they want to achieve and make sure everybody has what they need. And the only way you can really do that effectively is have the right bandwidth. So that's been a big part that we've really focused on, is making sure the office, the field, both have the appropriate bandwidths. And I think there's a couple other things there. When we talk about culture, we try not to go, we have positions, we have roles, but we try to let those kind of grow organically and not grow into a specific model. And so paired with that, we've created roles that I don't think exist anywhere else, to my knowledge, in the world that we live and breathe in. And so been very strategic about a guy's skill set and what they have to offer and how to go maximize their benefit and not force them to do things that they don't like or they're not good with. Not that there aren't roles and responsibilities, things that people should do, but also not go try to force, the square peg into a round hole.
Can you share any, are there any kind of unique roles that you've put on paper for some of your employees?
I think so. Probably the first one that comes to mind is the first employee that we actually hired outside of Jonathan. Jonathan's kind of grandfathered in. His employee number's number one. He made sure of that.
I think it's actually -1. I think we hired him before we actually filed paperwork with the state.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we got like 00 and 000 and -1.
Yeah.
So we've got a guy named Gato, and Gato, he's been doing this for 40 years probably. He was a foreman to Charlie David way back in the Hill Wilkinson days when Charlie was still over there, when they were self-performing concrete. And so he's just got a vast amount of knowledge. He knows all the guys in the industry on the concrete side, and he lives and breathes it. And, Gato worked his way up. He started with us an assistant superintendent, worked his way up to superintendent. He was doing a great job, but he was so heavily involved in the concrete and the steel, kind of what we call piers to panels, that we saw this strength that we wanted to go focus on. And so we created a position called quality control and production manager. And his job is to be a part of all of our projects. Okay. And he's showing these younger guys support. He's teaching them things. He's showing them the way that we did things 30 years ago, because we don't do things the same. But that knowledge being passed down is huge.
Yeah, what to go look for, what to check. We just felt like with him, it felt like he had like a racehorse, a guy that's ready to run, wants to go fast, wants to come an open road. And it was like, just hang out in the stable, fill out these forms, have these meetings. And it just didn't feel like that was the right solution. And through that, not only has that benefited him, I mean, it's benefited Bratjen as a whole, but there's been so many other younger superintendents that have been able to glean information, have the right support in the field, and been able to blossom into just, being some of our strongest guys through their experience and with Gato. So,
yeah, that's great awareness on your end, just taking that into account and seeing someone's strength, and then essentially what gives them energy and what brings the most value to our company and to our clients. So I love that specific example. So thank y'all for sharing. So you are 3 years into this business. So what have been some of the pains and the struggles that you've had to adapt to? Like, what are some key lessons learned in your time so far? And how has that contributed to your culture?
So I'll start with this. One of our guys likes to say, we're a new company, but none of us are new.
Yeah, we've been around a long time.
We've been around a long time.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, with that, I think some of the challenges have been nobody at Bratjen for the first year, 2 years was in a role that they had done before. Okay. Ben and I weren't owners before, Jonathan was not a project manager before, but we took those things and we grew. I mean, we started with one job at the end of 2020. We did 3 the next year. I don't even know how many last year, and tons coming up. I mean, as we've grown, the growing pains have been navigating the waters of not only a new business, but everybody's in a new role. But the cool thing is, kind of back to the core values, we've been able to do it the way that we want to do it. There's not anybody telling us, hey, you should do it this way. Why? We're trying to stay the opposite of corporate. Okay. You look at these big corporations and their policies and their vacation time. We may have as many employees as them one day, but I can promise you, as long as we're involved, we're going to really try to stick to our small town, small business mentality, mom and pop, because with that, the culture and the freedom, it's always a thing.
Yeah, and I think, the biggest thing, anybody that's doing their job, there's kind of 2 things that need to go kind of hand in hand. Some is oversight, that, somebody's watching, helping them, making sure the things that they don't know, that they're being able to, chart a course, but also do it within the safe bounds of that oversight. I think the other piece is feeling effective, that, hey, the things I'm doing, the things I'm communicating are making a difference, that I'm not being second guessed, that, there isn't this, dynamic there where, I have to go ask permission. I have to go do these things in order to go make decisions. And so I think for us, probably the biggest frustration that we've probably had that existed internally was, when it was 5 of us, like, that's pretty easy to all get on a call. We have a lot more time. We can go solve anything. But as we've grown, being able to set, who's responsible for what, and give those people the opportunity and the freedom to go make those decisions, but then also creating certain protocols and when to rope Jared in, or when to rope me in, or when to rope that next guy in. And so that's probably been the biggest thing, is just trying to make sure that structure gets built. And that's really, an effort that's ongoing right now as we've grown. Jared kind of mentioned some of that growth. We basically tripled in revenue in 2023. It looks like we'll double again this year. And so paired with that, back to our core values, which you'll hear us say this a lot. We continue to kind of look back at those, like I said, as our guiding principles. But if we want to maintain bandwidth, we've got to be able to have the right structure. And then that way it can all funnel down and it's not overload on one specific person.
Ben's got a good analogy on being laser focused. I'll let him say that, and then I'm going to fill that in with something.
Yeah. And I think, we try to focus on a specific market sector, and what I'll kind of use is light. Like we're all sitting in this room, there's light, we can see each other. We can take that same light and you can focus it and it becomes a laser beam that can cut through steel. And so we really try to be the experts, really try to focus on that market sector we serve, but also not be, unaware of other avenues and other opportunities that some of our people want to grow. And so, what this looks like, years from now, it's tough to say, but I could see where we have multiple business units, all laser focused, to use Jared's word, on specific market sectors.
Yeah. So where I was kind of going with that is I'm not a safety guy. Okay. I love safety. And when I walk a job site, I know what to look for. But at the end of the day, bringing that in-house did not make sense. Letting a company like you guys come in and be laser focused on that, you guys do it every day. You guys see everything. You guys give us heads up way before we ever even thought of it. And so, outsourcing a third party on something that most people would say, hey, you need to have that in-house. You need to have a safety team. And I think that's great. I think you should. But letting somebody that's a professional at it, that's doing this day in and day out all the time, it's awesome. I mean, it's relieved us of having to go make that focus and create policies.
Yeah, we've done that in numerous categories. Obviously, we've talked about this a little bit, but what we do, safety's paramount. The risk side of what that can mean, and obviously for us, I mean, we want everybody to be able to go home safe, every day, and be able to have a culture that's really prompting that, promoting that, being able to celebrate it. And so we've really tried, safety being kind of case in point, but also numerous other pieces. How do we go, have a third party that specializes in that we're able to leverage, which gives us then more time to focus on the things that we're good at. And so I always joke a lot in the room, like I'm just a dumb construction guy. Like I'm just going to focus on how it needs to be built, the time, the schedule, the cost, and then have those arbitrary parts and pieces that filter into us that I think do go a lot beyond a relationship that, hey, it's a friendship. We're in this together. We all want to be successful and go partner together on it.
How have you two grown in this role? So you've taken on all these different hats and you've had to learn these different roles through 3 years. And before that, where are you trying to maximize your efforts as a leader as you've kind of navigated this growth journey? How are you guys trying to make effective decisions and run your business, learning what you've had so far in 3 years?
Yeah, I think, 3 years is probably a pretty good litmus test to go build something. And I think, the success we had is kind of probably testament to that. I think where we're at now, it's less on building something and more on building people. And so that's really been, ongoing discussions that we're having. How do we go build that structure in? How do we go set people up where now there's teams underneath these key individuals that we have? And then how do us as leaders go support them? And so I think paired with that is us making less decisions and letting those guys, run it, but then also be able to have that oversight, the questions that we're asking them, how we're coaching them through the process of how they're leading, directing their team.
We took a guy that works for us. He's been a friend of mine for a long time, Michael Irvin. He came on with us about 2 years ago now. He started as a project manager. And he came to us from Sewell Lexus, and he was basically in their finance department. He was killing it, but his work-life balance was horrible. I mean, he was just working, 7 days a week, 10, 12, 15-hour days. And so he came on with us as a project manager, did a great job. But as time went on, we learned that that's not his passion. His passion is in operations. His passion is in the HR side of things. And when you're building a culture, that's a hard thing to give up. But it's been really cool to watch him grow. I think back to your question earlier, as far as struggles that we've had since we started, one of the biggest struggles that we had being a new company was bonding and insurance. And thankfully, we've got two of the best guys in the world on both sides of those things. But, Ben can allude to this, but when we sat down and started going through insurance stuff, we obviously, being a new company, we didn't have any history as a company to go off of. And so I'll let him kind of tell the story about the changes that we were able to make I would say, in a certain sector of that industry for a certain insurance company, just based on kind of everything we've talked about today.
Yeah, I think a lot of it, finding the right people, and goes back to the comment that we made about, we're a new company, but we've been around a while. And so there's, obviously the experience side, people that we're hiring, their experience, kind of pairing all those in together. And so our first year, we just paid for insurance, and I knew what rates should be, and I knew what rates we had. And it was kind of one of those costs of doing business. And so kind of pairing into that, continuing to, further conversations, build relationships that I think now have turned into friendships with our insurance and our bond guy. We got an opportunity to go talk to a carrier that doesn't do startups. We were 1 year old at the time. They're our carrier to this day now. Well, paired with that, through the conversation, they rewrote their whole policy on how they actually evaluate startups. And we were actually the subject of basically a kind of presentation they gave at the National Insurance Convention talking about us. And it's not about us. It's really just about, the culture that we're building. Part of that was the safety side of, what our focuses were, how we're managing those pieces, because any insurance company is going to want to know the risk. And obviously safety is a huge risk.
I really appreciate you guys personalizing the business. And what I find so cool about your core values is that you can align anyone that you would probably want to have on your team can align with faith, family, and friendship. And so when you put that into business context, it just makes sense. And that really sets the tone for the people that are coming into your organization. And to hear some of those firsthand stories of how you guys are doing that, I think that's going to bring a lot of value to our listeners. Is there anything that you would say to any other entrepreneur or person that's looking to start their own business, if they're at day one or right before they make that decision? What would you tell them?
The first thing I'd ask them is, are you married? Because I'll tell you right now, without our wives and the support we've had at home, I mean, once again, this has not been easy. It's been fun. There's been a lot of sacrifice on both ends, but the support that we've had, through the hurdles and the things that we do have to take home, do you have that? The second thing I tell you is do it. The sooner the better, because if that's where your passion is, you're probably wasting your time. We have a guy that came to work for us, literally graduated Tarleton University on a Saturday, started with us on Monday. I mean, fresh out of college. And, since day one, I think the only thing that he ever talks about when he's not working is flying a plane. And the kid just loves to fly. And unfortunately for us, he's no longer with us at the company, but in a good way, we were able to inspire him to go chase his dreams. So he's actually stepped back from the company, and he's going to get his private pilot license. And his dream is to go be a commercial pilot. And he's aggressively pursuing this. This isn't kind of like, I kind of want to go be a pilot. And I know that's not him starting his own business, but in a way it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's been cool to watch somebody that was a little bit more reserved go learn construction, but really learn the values that we have and be able to believe in himself and go make that kind of change at that age. I think he's 22 now, and dive into something and go chase his dream.
Yeah, I think there's, a lot of people that, have ideas or desires. And we do live in what I call the fast food world, like where you just go and order it, just those things happening. And so I think it's interesting, like thinking about Bratjen. I remember, being 16, 17, wanting to have my own construction company, didn't know what that meant. Didn't think that was anything like what we do today, but had this desire. And, through that, was able to kind of over the, period of time, kind of chase those things out. And then, lo and behold, I thank God, aligned various things, put me and Jared together from a connection standpoint that led to this. And so, I think for us, in every situation, I think is different. Should somebody go start their own company? Yeah. Could be really good, could be bad, and so there's dynamics. But, if you are married, to me, like have your wife's buy-in or your significant other's buy-in. I know my wife felt more stronger about Bratjen than I did. And so there's a lot of encouragement there to like, no, we're in this together. And I think more than anything, pray about it, so.
Absolutely.
I think that's a great way to end it, just with prayer and faith. And, I appreciate you two going all in with that, keeping that as the cornerstone, your faith, and then demonstrating those values as leading Bratjen. And so we're proud to work and partner with you all, and we look forward to the road ahead. But thanks for joining our podcast today, and we look forward to continuing this conversation as we all look to grow our cultures. So appreciate Jared and Ben for coming in, and we'll see you out there.
Absolutely.
All right.
Having us.